So my challenge just reached 1,000 subscribers, and to celebrate that, I want to do a classic conversion, the great clean one, a Nurgle Greater Demon that is fully clean. Just a nice little back rub on your open spine. Don't forget this area. Okay, off to the next step.
The original creator of the Great Clean One is Wilhelm Miniatures. I found this post on Instagram from 2019. That is the finished Great Clean One version, and I saw it back in the day, and I still had it in my mind. And Wilhelm Miniatures is such a great sculptor. I'm a little bit jealous. I'm really jealous. That was credit where credit is due, and let's get into that conversion. So I'm not actually using this guy. This was the last great unclean one from Forgeware that was sold in Warhammer World. It was the display model, and it still has its horns and everything. I'm using another one I got from eBay that is already missing the horns, and I don't need the horns anyway, so this is a better one. I just have not used this one because it's sprayed black already, and you wouldn't see all the details as nice in the shots before. So yeah, I will try to carefully extract everything that is still usable, like the sword and the one of the hands that's holding the sword, and the little Nurgling that is pulling the intestines out, some of the tentacles, and yeah, let's get to it. Okay, stuff I want to keep is the sword, maybe with the hand as well. Let's try to probably have to sword it off. Oh no, I don't. Maybe to get the tongue out there as well. Oof. Let's try to cut the tongue off. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle the sword out. Oh, it actually works. Nice. A lot of tongue is solid. Oops. Get it out there. Yeah, this area is a little tricky. I have to sculpt some teeth under that tongue. It hurt a little bit to cut away all of these details, but it had to be done. I needed a smooth surface for the conversion, so I had to cut away a lot of the toxic growth, the boils, the tumors, the pimples, the open sores. They had stuff sticking out, so yeah, all of that had to go. And yeah, the pimples were the most work, I guess. They had to be cut away because sanding that off would take a long time. So I mainly used my pliers and my knife and my file to get rid of them. And yeah, it was a lot of work, to be honest. And there was always one missing, and I really wanted a totally clean surface for that conversion. But all the pimples had to go, all of them. And I wanted to prepare it for sanding, and sanding was, I did so much sanding on that miniature. There's so many areas that are really hard to reach, and I tried to use the sandpaper with water, but I think the sandpaper was not suited to be used with water because it just rubbed all of the sanding stuff off. I had some that was specifically made for wet sanding, but that grid was too fine, so I had to use something else to get rid of a lot of material first, and then use the finer one to make a smooth surface. And I used various files on the miniature as well to get rid of more material. It was just hours and hours of filing, cutting, sanding. Oh my god, it took such a long time. And I needed a little bit of a break from that. And I needed to replace the right hand of the miniature because that one was holding the sword. So I searched for a hand in the Great Unclean One plastic kit. And I found one that I have removed something in between. I'm not sure which hand it was exactly, but it was missing one finger. So I had to cut a finger off from another hand and add it to that one. And that finger broke off during that whole process about 5 times. And it made me completely furious when it broke off again. And I tried to pin it, but it didn't work. And then I used some plastic glue. And then I used some super glue. And oh, it was a nightmare. And I had to clean that hand, obviously, as well, because it had to fit the rest of the miniature. So I had to take a knife, and the plastic was much easier to cut, much easier to work with. So I was happy about that little distraction from all of the resin. To get a smooth transition from the resin part to the plastic part, I used some super glue, and then I added some green stuff. Then I used some more super glue, and then I added the hand. So the green stuff made it possible for me to sculpt the area that was transitioning from one part to the other to make it smooth and make a nice transition. And then I also filled in the middle of the hand has a hollow part, so I had to fill that in as well. And I wanted to sculpt a nice palm in that hand, and obviously it fell off because I was trying to do that on the miniature, so that gave me the opportunity to do it separated from the miniature. So I was able to sculpt a nice middle part of the hand and put it back on the miniature with some super glue, and then the hand was finished. And I had some green stuff left over, so I said might as well fill in some of the holes like the belly and add that green stuff to him. And I knew that green stuff wasn't as great with sanding it smooth again, so I tried to push it into the recesses a lot to prepare an area for the later milliput I wanted to add. And I filled in the shoulder on the miniature, and then I had to let all of that cure for the next day because the hand needed to be solid on the wrist, because otherwise I would touch it again and again and it would just not be in the right position. And yeah, the fingers fell off anyway, so don't worry about that. They fell off 5 times. And on the next day, I mixed some milliput standard together. The nice thing about milliput is you can add some water to it and make it smooth with the water. And it is really nice because it's sandable as well, because green stuff is really awkward to sand. So I just covered all of the areas that had problems and were uneven with the milliput, and it is really nice to blend with water, as I said. So I had a spray bottle ready, and then I just smoothed it all around. And yeah, the result was really good in the end. Some areas were really hard to reach, so I tried to. They were like back there, shaded in the armpits and behind the legs and everything. So I said, you probably won't see them anyway, so I don't really need to make them that smooth, so yeah, whatever. And to shield the details from me smudging them, I added a smaller base that I would remove in the end, and that also gave me the opportunity to put him on a painting handle and make painting much easier. And what can I say? More sanding. I used a sanding sponge with some water and wet sandpaper a lot on him. And it was just, I don't even remember, a few hours of sanding. The belly didn't want to be smooth, so I had to use coarse sandpaper on that and rub it around. And by accident, something like a belly button came out. So I used the back of a brush and punched the belly button in even harder. So yeah, that was a nice little accident. But these little lump rolls, the fatty rolls on his neck, they took a lot of time sanding, and you even used the file again on that. And yeah, but I was pretty happy with the result in the end. A later addition to the meme was that guy that is cleaning the belly with a rag. So I had said I have to add that guy to my to my Great Unclean One. And that guy's from the High Marshal Helbrecht kit. And I have him here, and I will just build that guy. And the rest can go to a friend or whatever, loyalist enjoyer. So I quickly extracted the guy from the Helbrecht kit and stuck him together with some plastic glue. But I noticed that his position is really not really possible without the part of the base that he is on, because he's kneeling in a weird position, and it's like he's not like flat on the ground. So I had to cut that part of the base and stick him to that base. That was much easier to position him with that slab of the base underneath his knees, and it looks like the Great Unclean One is trying to snatch him off there because he's clean enough. So your duty is done, little buddy. And then I gave him a quick black spray coat, and over that a Zenithal highlight coat of Wraithbone. The next step, I used my airbrush and I diluted the Citadel color Rucker Flash with some airbrush flow improver. I tried it out on my glove if the consistency of the color is right, and then I just sprayed it over the miniature, and that pre-shading I've done with the Zenithal highlight. So the miniature is basically black, and from the top that white Wraithbone layer is shading it lighter. So the airbrush layer is not fully opaque, and that way you can still see a little bit of the darker color through, and that looks like the miniature is shaded naturally. And the airbrush saved me so much time here. It just took like 2 or 3 minutes to spray the miniature, and then 5 to 10 minutes to clean, and 5 minutes to set everything up. So in total like 15 minutes, and with a brush it would have probably taken like 2 hours to do this. The next step is to shade all of the recesses with a reddish tone. I used Caribou Crimson, most of the time undiluted or just a little bit diluted, and then I used it I think it was 3:1 diluted down a lot with Lamia Medium, just to use it on those more subtle reddish tones, reddish areas I wanted to have. And on the really dark recesses, I used Drushi Violet to have a cooler kind of shade, and that gives a nice contrast with the red tones. And I had to go back and forth a lot on these steps. These steps are a little bit of trust the process kind of thing. So you have to just apply it and then look what it looks like. And then after that, you can go back with the skin tone. So I used Rucker Flash and a white, and I mixed them together. And I used a slow dry. It's called Dry Retarder. So it makes it dry much slower. So you can mix it on the miniature together where you want to have a nice blend. And yeah, that is just the subtle shading you have to do. I don't think I've done as good as a job as Villa Miniatures has done on his one, but I think the result is pretty good in the end. And you can look at the finished skin tone here. Yeah, that's the skin all shaded as I wanted. So, I gave it some little minor corrections during the rest of the process here and there. But I said I need to disguise that area where I cut the tongue away. So I added a lot of blood for the blood god to the mouth and to the tongue area. And that really blended that problematic area away. And it looks really gory and really disgusting, so I think good job on that one for me. Next step is to rip him off his temporary base and glue him on a 140mm round base. That's the normal base size for a Great Unclean One. And I added some bits of slate to the base, and I dunked him in a sand bath. And then I had to get rid of the sand if it stuck somewhere I didn't want it, and then it took a long time. And I did that section-wise, so first like half of the base and then the other half of the base. And then I could go to the next step after this was dried overnight to paint the base in Steel Legion Drab. And after the Steel Legion Drab was dried, I painted it in Agrex Earthshade to shade the recesses a little bit. Then after the Agrex Earthshade is dry, we do 3 layers of dry brushing. First Talon Sand, then another layer of Karak Stone, and then a 3rd layer of Ushabti Bone all over the base. And then the recesses are shaded again with Agrex Earthshade, and after that is dry, the base is fully painted. And then we just give the edge of the base 2 layers of thinned Abaddon Black, and I always use a matte medium after that to make the base rim extra matte. And then the miniature is painted, and we can look at a little detail because we need that little guy that's cleaning him up. The servitor was primed with Mechanical Standard Gray, and then I added the darker regions like the pants. I used Dark Reaper for that, and for the shirt as well. And then Corvus Black for the boots and some of the straps and some of the hoses he has. Then some metallic color. I think I used Lead Belcher on the metallic bits, and Bugman's Glow on all of the flashy bits. And some red on the eye, and then I washed him with 50/50 Lamia Medium, Agrex Earthshade. And then I gave the more visible areas, like the arms, a little bit of a highlight with Ironbreaker, little bit of Cadian Flesh Tone, Bugman's Glow mix on the arms, and the little cloth got some white highlights on it. Now we can add him to the base. I just blue tacked him down, honestly. I'm not sure, maybe I will glue him down and have a final position there. But we have to add some growth, some plants and flowers and stuff like that to the base as well, some bushes. So let's do that quickly, and then we can look at the miniature in all its glory. The servitor wasn't really connected that flush to the base, so I just hit that crime with these 2 grass tufts, and I added some moss pads, grass tufts all around. Mostly they look dead or dried. But I think for Nurgle it's always a really nice nice addition to the base if they are not alive and vibrant and green, because you have green on the models most of the time. Or maybe, I mean, on this one I don't, but I want him to tie into the rest of my big 40k army. So grass tuft, moss pads, brown, it's like autumnish colors. And now we can look at the finished result of the model. Let's go. And there he is, squeaky clean, fresh out of the bath, freshly polished. Isn't he great? Rosy skin, a face that only a mother can love. It's amazing. Oh, demons don't have a mother. Oh, that sucks for him. But Papa Nurgle loves him anyway. To be honest, my little turntable with that bulk, because it's basically a piece of solid resin, had a lot of problems turning this bad boy around.
It was harder than I thought to film something in the bath, but if you want to subscribe to the channel, you can smash that frog in the corner, or the algorithm god himself has chosen this video for you, so press your appendage on that one, and see you next time. Bye!